I'm Teppo Valtonen from the Finnish Institute of Occupational Health, and we've been on one topic we've been sort of pondering and considering our institute is quantified employee. So subtitle this time is using MyData for designing work. So we've been thinking about how we could use personal data, all sorts of personal data, somehow to improve the ways we work. So really to develop work, not just or not business models or things like that, but really how we do the work. Could the personal data somehow be used to improve that? Here. So the agenda for the next 1.5 hours is like this. I will give you a short introduction to sort of what our current thinking about the subject is. It's more sort of a framework for discussion. So it's not a product or something like that, at least not yet. It's more a framework or concept. Then we will have a video presentation from Peter Paul Gerfrans from Act to Be more about this organizational perspective, trust and things like that. And then two sort of use cases or case studies maybe. Marianne Falk-Christofelt from Suomen Economy will present Aikani mobile app for collecting time use of workers or employees. And then Valtonen from Meilainen will present or show us from Meilainen's digital clinic. Meilainen is one of Finnish large occupational health service providers and is key players in this quantified employee scene, if you like. Let's start warming up with the Screenio, so Presemo. I'm sure you're almost all at least familiar already with that. Here we have this screen where we can have questions and comments, but I'll present some additional questions to you as well. And let's start first with this kind of question. So, what health or well-being variables are you tracking currently? And you can choose here and click and add more also if you like, if there is something missing that you do track but is not mentioned there.
When you mean tracking, is it digital?
Not necessarily. You can also, actually the next question we can go to that, I can highlight it there. You can also use your own memory, pen and paper or so on, or whatever you like. Let's ask that. That is the next question. So it seems that physical exercise is the most common, at least among this group. Weight, of course, I think quite many of us will go, for example, every morning to see their weight. It goes quite many, at least in this take, is you don't track anything. So and then let's see what tools do you use for tracking. There's phone, iPhone. Again, I do not track my own memory. I think quite many of us just go weigh ourselves and that's it. We don't put it anywhere up. We don't take notes. Yeah, okay, thank you for this data, and then we can move on. I'll have a question and comments here. So now you can ask any questions and they will pop up here, and then I will try to remember to ask those questions or comment them during the presentations we have here. So let's move on. Of course, I think most of you know that the sort of background for this quantified employee is this quantified self movement maybe to incorporate technology into data acquisition. So these different aspects of daily life, for example, food consumed, or maybe mood, and of course then performance, mental, physical, so or exercise and workouts and stuff like that. And the term has been coined by Wired magazine editors Gary Wolf and Kevin Kelly in around 2007. And if we look at the Pew Research Center data from the US, about 70% of the US population say that they track some health or well-being aspect or variable in their lives. And from these trackers, 20%, 1/5 about use some sort of electronic tool, and the rest use paper or own memory. And of course, we think that I think the trackers, the amount of trackers is on the rise, and definitely this 20% is on the rise, since we are all have different mobile gadgets and things like that on our pockets, so it's already becoming automatic. And even if we sort of don't track ourselves, somebody else tracks us, as we know, since we are in this conference. So Finland is an interesting country from the perspective of quantified self and quantified employee and this tracking. They say that Finland has the most quantified self-related companies per capita in the world. So we have, for example, Polaris may be the first consumer quantified self manufacturer in the world, I think, with these heart rate monitors. First Beat is taking it a bit further to help management, stress management to the companies and so on. Then we have Wellmo, which is integrating data. MFit and Bedit are sleep trackers. Mega Electronics does different, all sorts of trackers as well. And then we have these new form factors, rings, Aura and Mood Ring. And then, for example, Affliction does tracking from computers, so how the computer, what is the health and well-being of computers, and that could be integrated in this quantified employee scenario very well as well. Okay, so in this consumer world, the companies are strongly experimenting on already how they could use these different technologies. For example, insurance companies are selling these new insurances that if you take 10,000 steps every day, then you might get, for example, discount of the insurance or something like that. In Finland they don't do that yet, but they are still promoting the use, or some companies are experimenting with the use of this physical activity tracking wristbands, for example. And as we know from Yogi Poiko and colleagues, the situation is currently like this. There is quite a bit mess with these different services, systems, trackers and so on. But what we are now thinking in this quantified employee framework, that what could this MyData view mean in the work life? So there are different stakeholders, a bit different maybe than in the consumer side. Of course, we think that we should place the employee in the middle, then we have the employer, then occupational health service, probably at least in Finland they are strong. Then of course the state is interested in what data is being gathered, researchers, and then all these different device manufacturers, service providers and so on, what they are interested in gathering the data and doing something with that. And maybe some personal trainers, life coaches, management consultants maybe, things like that. Then trade unions, and of course our colleagues. These are at least the different sort of stakeholders we might want to share our data, and they might help us in improving work. Ossi is here today to tell something about occupational health service, what kind of new things they are developing in this side, and then Marianne will tell us about the trade union. If we go to this health data, the current situation is that blood pressure is actually almost the only variable that sort of is officially sort of approved by the doctors to make home monitoring or tracking. The Finnish current care guidelines say that home measurement is the most recommended and often sufficient way to monitor blood pressure. But if we go to other kind of health data, for example sleep data, then the situation is much more complicated. The guidelines are much more versatile, and there are it's much more complex the way you should monitor or consider sleep. But what if in a short or in a brief future they could also say that home measurement will be the most recommended way to track or monitor sleep. Then some thinking of how we could look at the data we have in this quantified employee scene or framework. This is one way to look at it. There is the individual versus sort of the organization that somehow divide the data, and then also this real-time or long-term access. So for example, if you look at individual real-time data, then user interfaces are probably or is one area where we can use the data. For example, maybe if we can measure our cognitive load in real time, maybe the user interfaces could somehow adapt to our stress level or something like that. Then at the other end, or the other corner, for example, sick leaves, they are, of course they are related to the individual, but in the organizational perspective they tell something about how the organization is doing. So if there is in general much sick leaves compared to other companies or industries, then there is maybe some problems. Then we have some new ideas, maybe organizational pulse. If all the people would have heart rate monitors, maybe we could have some aggregated organizational pulse, and that might be interesting in some way. But what way, we don't know maybe yet. Things like that. And then another sort of tool to observe or think about this, all the different data and ways we use it is to look at sort of the process and how it could be, how the data should be used. We always have some kind of observation. There we have these issues about reliability and invasiveness. Then is the processing of the information, how we transfer the data, where we store it, these different PDS, personal data storages and things like that. And then in the analytic side, it's the interpretation. For example, if we think about heart rate variability, does it really tell about stress or not? Is it more related to physical stress than mental stress? Even though we have strong research evidence already, it's quite dependent on the individual still. And how we make sense of the data. Then of course if we want to change something or develop something in the work life, then we have to change something, then we have to make some decisions how we act on the data and so on, how we convey the things we want to change to the employee or the organization. And then really does it end up in action? If we make some changes, does it stay? Do people really change their behavior? And there are still many open issues. Maybe we can ask Marianne about these labor rights, and of course privacy. Technological platforms are only arising, but then I think the bigger questions we haven't really touched is that what about if we have some data? What about the data? What kind of ideas or how we can use the data and why? So we really don't know this yet. Then about these technological platforms, I think this seminar has been already touching quite a bit. There are many different solutions. One of our research projects is Reno. We are doing together with the Finnish Institute of Occupational Health is doing together with Helsinki Institute of Information Technology this Reno project. And there we are developing this digital me or DIME platform for collecting different kinds of information from the work worker, employee, and definitely in the MyData fashion, so the employer has the control over what kind of data. And from this link, you can go to GitHub and download it, and you can start to experiment with it if you wish. Get any? Yeah, do you think we have to wait for bio-friendly IoT devices? Yeah, that's a good question. I think we can start sort of taking this quantified employee step, or we can start taking the steps even before this maybe bio-friendly IoT devices, but especially in, I think, if you think of environmental data and, for example, level of oxygen in these rooms and things like that, and how we start to adapt the environment so that we feel better inside and work better, then they are maybe the first steps in these bio-friendly IoT devices. I think we already have the technology. Okay, thank you.